Hi there, Mr. Kern here. In this tutorial, it's basically you're just going to learn a few things about Excel. I use Excel 2007. If you have an older version, it's got all the same features for the most part. There just might be in different little tabs as you look up here. There won't be these fancy pictures. There'll be a drop-down menu, but it's all there somewhere. Just take some looking. So what we're going to look at is sorting data, figuring out sums, averages, and then making scatter plots. These are what I'm going to use the most in my physics or chemistry classes, so that's what I'm going to teach. So to get started, maybe let's say these are some of the students. These are the scores they got on a quiz, and so we want to sort them. So if I'm going to put these in my grade book, I want them in alphabetical order based on the name. So there are different ways to sort. It just depends on what you're looking for. So first off, when you highlight these, I want this name to end up with that score. I don't want it to end up with somebody else's score. So you have to highlight the names and the scores together. And I want to sort these alphabetically. So alphabetically would be column A, and I want them to go A to Z. So I do that. We go from Cassie all the way to Scott, and the scores stay with them. If you're doing some kind of data analysis, maybe I want to know who got the highest score, who got the lowest score. So if I set it up like that, we have two 29s all the way down to a 21. So just a nice simple tool. If you're looking at data, this is really helpful. So let's look at sums and averages now. So if I want to know what's the total points that we got on this, maybe compared to other quizzes, what you can do is type equal and sum, and there are these options down here. Basically, these are other ways you can do sums, but we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to do sum. So you can click on that, and you just highlight the numbers you want to add. Hit enter. That's our score. If we want to know the average of all of these, same thing. We type in equals, average, and then we highlight the numbers that we want averaged. So it's a really quick, easy way to do some data analysis, and then we can see where our scores tend to be. Now, let's say we have some data we want to move around a little bit. We want to put in a chart, and we kept track of some time, and we kept track of distance something went every 2 seconds, it looked like. So if we want to make a data chart of this, we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to make a scatter plot. A scatter plot is what you have when you have, as they explain there, an X and a Y chart. So we have some X data. This will be along the horizontal axis. The Y data, this will be the vertical. So if we highlight both of those, scatter plot, and it's able to find it and select it. Now what you have to make sure is that you actually have the data where it needs to be. So we have the X, the time, along the bottom. Every 2 seconds you have the Y up top. So things you can do, you can change the whole title. So you can say distance versus time. You can come down here and you can edit the axis. So you're able to adjust things like the numbers where they go to a minimum, maximum. Other things like how it's filled or style, all of that. So one super helpful tool, once you have this graph made, we have these data points, you have the option to connect the dots, but even that doesn't help you that much. What we want to know is what's the kind of trend we can get from this data. What does it show that we can use to kind of help predict what other data is. So in between these 2 points, what's the value? So they have options there of maybe a line, so linear, where you have it like that. That doesn't fit the data very well. What looks a lot better is the exponential, so it's able to fit that. We can also have it display the equation on the chart. If we go back to linear, you get an equation with that y equals mx plus b, which hopefully you remember from your algebra class. But basically, that's going to give us that relationship between the time variable and the distance. So we can actually calculate out what would it be at 9 seconds, because we don't have data for 9, but we can calculate it out of that. So wherever it says x, you put in that value you want. So if you want it to know it at 9 seconds, you put a 9 in there, perform that math. So it makes it really easy for us to use. And so that's one really nice way that we can have a good graph to show our data. And so there we had just a really quick tutorial. We learned about doing sorting. We learned how to really quickly find the sum, how to find averages, and then last, how to make scatter plots with our data, and how to find that curve line that'll help us predict other data that we didn't actually take. So it all ends up being very helpful for different types of classes. It'll be helpful for in the math class if you have to do this type of stuff, making graphs. It'll be helpful for your physics classes or your chemistry if you have to keep track of your lab. So hopefully you found this useful and you end up using these little tips in the future. Good luck!